Hello, this video will be focused on how to use a logic model to plan and implement your Otd Capstone. This layout is pretty basic layout and common layout for a logic model. It has inputs, outputs, and outcomes, impact, significance. Inputs are the things you need to be successful with your capstone project. Outputs are your methodology and your capstone product. And the outcomes are what you expect to be the result of your capstone project, why it's significant. For this, we know that we learn best from examples. So I'm providing an example from my own doctorate work to help illustrate how to use a logic model. One thing to note is that this is from my dissertation. This is from a PhD. So you're applying these principles to your doctorate. So this may seem like a lot, and so you'll want to talk with your Otd Capstone mentor and your capstone coordinator to help you come up with the just right size project for an Otd Capstone. Starting off, we want to identify our problem whenever we're starting a capstone project. And so for me, the problem was that young children ages 4 and 5 need explicit instruction to learn healthy and effective self-regulation skills. So this is a problem I was seeing as I worked as an occupational therapist in a community preschool, early childhood education center. Lots of children needed help with self-regulation skills, and so I saw this need. So the purpose of my project was twofold. First, to develop a complex, intensive 8-week class-wide intervention to explicitly teach healthy, effective self-regulation skills. And second was to evaluate the impact of this complex, intensive 8-week class-wide intervention on self-regulation skills of 4 and 5-year-old children. The intervention focused on self-regulation skills was based on the ALERT program and was then adapted to the preschool environment. This adaptation of the ALERT program was named the Ready Class Project. The concept of ready refers to being ready to learn and play, and CLASS is an acronym that stands for Classroom Lessons Applying Sensory Strategies. So before we move on, let's think about theory. I used PEOP in the conceptualization of my project. So looking at the person, their environment, and their occupation, and how that impacts performance, participation, and well-being. So with the Ready Class project, it's a create, promote intervention. I was focused on all the children in an entire classroom without regard for any disability. I wanted to look at the entire classroom and a whole environment, how I could change the environment to promote healthy, effective self-regulation skills. So by engineering the environment, I am having an impact on the children and their performance, participation, and well-being specifically. Okay? So let's return back to our logic model template. We have my problem and purpose at the top. And I thought it was helpful for you to sort of understand the context of my project so we could sort of dig in, and we'll start with the outputs. So the outputs is my methodology. This is what I did to implement my project. So it started with the development phase. That is me putting together what is this 8-week intervention going to be, what's all involved. This was a research study as well as a program development. So I needed to go through the IRB, put together an application with the IRB, get approval, and all of that. So that happened in the development phase. Let me pause. I see one error. Okay, jumping back in here. I just edited these phases for greater clarity. And so we have a development phase, then we have an implementation phase, And then we have a dissemination phase. Within the implementation phase, that is me doing some pre-test of the children and the teachers and the environment, doing the 8-week intervention, and doing post-test, and then concluding with the dissemination of the results. Okay, let's talk a little bit about the product, which was the final deliverable from this whole project was this Ready Class project, this complex, intensive 8-week intervention. So it involved 2 one-hour training sessions with the teachers. So when we think about OT approaches, we think of education and training. Also met with the teachers weekly to coach the teachers. Talking about each week by week, what are we doing? We're planning together, and we're reflecting on the previous week and planning the next week. This is also education and training. We also had a variety of materials that we brought into the classroom: sensory materials for regulation, posters, books, things like that for the classroom to be successful during the intervention and beyond. So this is preparatory methods. By the way, I did this project in 2015, so that would be under OTPF 3. So please forgive me for this. Language is reflective of the third practice framework instead of the fourth one, which doesn't have preparatory methods in it exactly anymore, not those exact terms. Anyway, we had weekly sessions with the children where the teacher and OT worked together to deliver content, reinforce concepts. So we would have circle time, sing songs, read books, do activities as a large group. Then we had small groups, so all the children engaging in small groups, just 3-4 children at a time, with the OT and or teacher leading these small groups to talk about concepts and content related to this intervention. Okay, this logic model can be a working document that you continue to tweak as you prepare your proposal. So this, I guess, appears kind of backwards since the arrows are going to the right, and I started us talking about the middle. Now I'm going to go to the left to the inputs, but I felt it was important to give you that context of the project before we talk about inputs. Inputs are those things that I needed to be successful in this project. I needed time. This was an 8-week intensive intervention, so I wanted to be in the classroom 3 and 4 times a week, 2, 3, 4 times a week, meeting with the teachers, observing, working with the children, implementing groups. And so I needed time that I could dedicate to this. I needed funding for sensory tools and other materials that we brought into the classroom. I needed expertise in Dunn sensory processing framework. I needed expertise in evidence-based coaching. I needed knowledge of the curriculum, philosophy, and expectations of the preschool classroom. The specific preschool that I was working in, I needed knowledge of relevant assessment tools for this pre- and post-test phase. I needed an appreciation for qualitative and quantitative research methods, and I needed to have an understanding of how to apply PEOP. Another important aspect, actually I'm going to pause and type this in. Another important aspect that just occurred to me as I was talking this through with you all is people. I had a level 2 fieldwork students working with me. I also needed the teachers to be fully invested with their time and talent. I needed the teacher supervisors to be supportive of this. So there's people was highly critical to the success of my project. So that's another input to consider. So we just think about all the things we need to be successful in our projects. That is the inputs. Things, knowledge, resources, processes, people, processes, tools. All right, let's move on to the next segment, which is outcomes. To think about outcomes, we return to PEOP. The major outcomes of PEOP are performance, participation, and well-being. You see them reflected on this visual schema. These are also reflected in our practice framework as some of the main outcomes of OT intervention. Okay, so then with that in mind, we think about in the short term being an immediate response to the intervention, to the project, that teachers would start to appreciate the varied and unique sensory and self-regulation needs of the children, that they would use self-regulation vocabulary throughout the daily routine, and they would meet the self-regulation needs of the children throughout the day. So the teacher's performance and participation then is enhanced and influences the children. The children's self-regulation needs are being met, which improves their performance and participation. And then finally, the children learn and practice, learn to articulate how they feel and advocate for themselves. So just as a reminder, we're using this Ready Class project is based on the ALERT program, which teaches kids how their engine runs. Sometimes it runs high, sometimes it runs low, sometimes it runs just right, or excuse me, yeah, just right. And so the teachers are using this vocabulary. The children are starting to use it as well. This is a short-term, immediate reaction to the intervention. Okay, so then when we go on to medium terms, we're going to be thinking about 6 months after the project. What do we hypothesize will be the outcomes? 6 months after the project has been implemented, we imagine that the classroom becomes supportive, positive environment for all children to participate and learn. So this helps their participation and well-being. Children demonstrate less disruptive and non-productive behaviors, participation and well-being, and the children demonstrate greater competence as evidenced by their vocabularies, their knowledge, their skills related to self-regulation, their performance. The final aspect to hypothesize is what would happen 12 months after the project is over, right? This is a hypothesis because the project doesn't extend that long. For your Otd Capstone, you have 14 weeks, so you don't have 12 months to explore. So you're just hypothesizing I'm noticing this typo here, children's, it's like this. You're hypothesizing what would be the impact 12 months after your project is over. So for me, I said I believe that children will enter kindergarten with the self-regulation skills they need to succeed in school, kindergarten and beyond, so their performance, their participation, and well-being. So hopefully you can see how this connects to our practice framework outcomes, but also PEOP. We'll go back here, performance, participation, and well-being. Enhance the environment, the things the teachers are doing, the things that are in the environment, the physical environment, the social environment, improves the child's performance, participation, and well-being. Okay. And here is just a closer look at my methodology. We had those 3 phases that you saw here: development phase, implementation phase, dissemination phase. Here I just, for your edification, you can kind of see a little bit more specifically what I did. Development phase: conduct a needs assessment, develop an intervention, submit IRB for IRB approval, start recruiting my participants, which I guess technically you could say is part of the implementation phase. Do pre-test, do the intervention, do post-test, analyze all that data, and then write a manuscript for publication or present to various OT audiences. So hopefully that helps you see how the logic model can help you plan out on a grand scheme what your capstone is about. It's a visual representation of it's your roadmap of your Otd capstone. And I illustrated from a dissertation standpoint, but hopefully you can extrapolate from there. This also connects to when you think about why is your project significant. This inputs has great implications for your learning objectives and this middle part, the outputs, has implications for your methodology for your project. So it's a visual representation of your entire project on one page. Hopefully this was helpful to you, and I look forward to your feedback and helping you develop your individual projects using a logic model. Take care. Be well.